Hi. It happened over breakfast. No build-up, no dramatic fight the night before, just a quiet announcement slipped into the middle of an otherwise ordinary Tuesday. "I think we need some space," she said, folding her napkin carefully. Her tone was smooth, almost detached. "A little distance. It might teach you to value me more." I watched her across the table, trying to read her face. She didn't look upset. If anything, she looked prepared. I kept my voice even as I spoke. "You think that's what we need?" Her reply came fast, almost too fast, as if she'd rehearsed it. "It's not a break," she said, words precise. "Not a separation. Just time apart to reflect. For both of us." I nodded slowly, studying her. "If that's what you think will help." The words came easily enough, but inside, something was off. We'd had an argument on Sunday, minor, forgettable, about me working too late, her feeling taken for granted. We'd patched it, or so I thought. Nothing had suggested we were nearing some cliff, but here she was, with the script ready. She seemed almost disappointed at my lack of resistance. Her gaze lingered a moment longer than necessary before she stood. "I'm going to stay at Megan's, just for a few days," she said, already turning away. "All right." I heard her moving through the house the rest of the morning, closet doors opening, suitcase wheels clicking across the floor. Her movements were quick, efficient, not the hesitations of someone unsure about leaving. I stayed in my office, door cracked, listening, thinking. This wasn't impulsive. She'd planned this. I could see it now in every deliberate step. Clothes selected, bag packed, phone constantly in her hand. Not the behavior of someone seeking quiet reflection. When she came to the door before leaving, her smile was thin. "I'll text you later." I nodded. No questions, no attempt to change her mind. Not yet. The silence after the door shut was heavier than I expected. I sat at the kitchen table, replaying the last few weeks in my mind. There had been signs. I just hadn't wanted to see them. 3 weeks ago, she joined a new yoga studio. Not unusual, but suddenly she was attending classes 4 nights a week. The same period when her phone gained a new passcode. Just because of work. Dinners had grown quieter. More scrolling, less conversation. The intimacy between us, physical, emotional, had thinned. At the time, I'd chalked it up to stress. We'd been through rough patches before. Now I wasn't so sure. That afternoon, I checked our shared calendar, blank. Then the credit card app. No charges yet. Her social media hadn't updated either. But when I opened it, I noticed her profile photo had changed. A new headshot, cropped close, casual but polished. Something she hadn't mentioned. The little details started adding up. Changes meant to project something new, not to me, but to the outside world. I closed the app. Watched the sunlight shift across the floor. My gut told me this wasn't about space. By evening, her first message came. "Made it to Megan's. Hope you had an okay day. TTYL." The emoji didn't match the tone of the morning. It felt performative, evidence for some future defense. I typed back, "Glad you got there safe. Talk soon." I didn't add a heart. Didn't add anything extra. Phone down, I leaned back and thought hard. For the first time, I allowed the darker possibilities into my mind. Was this about someone else? About staging her exit? I reviewed the past month again. The nights out, the guarded phone, her sudden fixation on independence. Even her wardrobe had shifted, sleeker, edgier. I hadn't wanted to confront those changes. Now they stood out in sharp relief. Around 10 p.m., I checked her Instagram again. No new posts, but her close friend Jess had posted a group selfie from a wine bar. There, in the background, blurred but unmistakable, was my wife. Hair done, dressed to impress. Definitely not a quiet night in at Megan's. My pulse quickened, but I forced myself to stay composed. I didn't text her. Didn't call. No confrontation. Not yet. By midnight I'd made my decision. I would stop assuming this was what she claimed it was. From now on I would observe, quietly, carefully, and if there was more beneath the surface, I'd find it. By the second morning, Lauren's absence had already shifted from strange to calculated. No message that morning. No check-in. No casual, "Good morning," like she used to send even on her busiest workdays. I told myself to wait, to see how she'd play this. But every hour of silence tightened the coil in my chest. When her first text finally came just after 2 in the afternoon, it was clinical. "Busy day. Hope all's good. We'll call later." A line written to fulfill an obligation, not to connect. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Not without understanding exactly what was happening. Instead, I started watching. I began with her social media. Lauren's profile had gone suspiciously quiet. Too quiet for someone normally eager to share her curated life. But her friends weren't keeping the same discipline. Jess posted a story from a rooftop bar, golden hour, champagne flutes, skyline behind them. And there was Lauren, front and center in one frame, hairstyled, wearing a new silk blouse I'd never seen. Laughing, drink in hand? This wasn't reflection. This was indulgence. By day 3, my thinking had shifted from passive observation to active investigation. First stop, our shared credit card app. New charges had landed overnight. $48 at a boutique salon Lauren hadn't mentioned. $112 at a hotel lounge, processed mid-afternoon the previous day. $26 at a wine bar, late that evening. Hotel lounge. That stuck with me. I pulled up a map. The lounge was across town from Megan's place. No reason for Lauren to be there if she were staying where she claimed. Still no confrontation. I kept my surface calm. At noon, I sent a neutral message. "How's everything? Hope you're getting the space you needed." She didn't reply for over 3 hours. When she did, "It's good. Taking time for me. Needed this. We'll talk soon." The heart emoji rang hollow. A prop, just like the tone of her voice when we parted. That evening, the first real break came. Mark, a mutual friend, texted me out of the blue. "Saw Lauren at that new place on 5th last night. Looked like a fun crowd." I kept my tone neutral. "Yeah? Thanks for the heads up." But my pulse jumped. Lauren had never mentioned that bar. More telling, fun crowd wasn't Megan's usual circle. Something didn't fit. I decided to test the edges, quietly. That night I messaged Megan. "Hey, just checking in. Hope Lauren's not driving you crazy. Tell her I said hi." 10 minutes later the response. "Oh, we've both been super busy. Haven't seen much of her this week." Haven't seen much of her. That was it. The confirmation I needed. Lauren wasn't staying with Megan. She'd lied about where she was staying, lied about who she was with. And now the pattern made sense. Stage distance, controlled communication, public freedom. This wasn't space. It was set up. Before bed, I checked her Instagram one more time. New post. Just hours old. A black and white selfie. Artsy, moody lighting, captioned. "New energy. New chapter." I stared at the words. I could picture the narrative already forming. A curated public image crafted carefully in parallel with her private moves. The text buzzed again minutes later, this time from Lauren herself. "Miss you. This is harder than I thought." Now I understood perfectly. False normalcy. Emotional dissonance. Engineered. The image she wanted to present to me didn't match the reality she was building. I set the phone down, mind sharp. By the end of that night, I'd crossed an internal line. This was no temporary distance, no genuine reset. Lauren wasn't planning to reflect. She was laying groundwork for something bigger, something designed to box me in. And now, I would respond in kind, quietly, strategically. I woke on day 4 with the kind of clarity that only comes when hope has fully burned off. There was no lesson here, no intention of coming back stronger. Lauren wasn't at Megan's, wasn't taking space. She was constructing an exit, and I wasn't going to wait passively to be pushed through it. I started the day by reviewing every tool at my disposal. First, our shared financial apps. Over coffee, I pulled up the week's transactions again. More patterns were emerging. Another salon charge had hit that morning, different location this time. Another $67. A separate $90 charge at a late-night lounge on the opposite side of town. Again, nowhere near Megan's. Next, location history. Lauren and I both had location services enabled on our main phones, by habit, not suspicion. But when I checked her location that morning, it was disabled. Deliberate. That setting hadn't been off before. I spent the next hour quietly extending my observation net. First, I scrolled through tagged photos and public check-ins from her wider social group, not just Jess and Megan, but acquaintances from her new yoga studio and the so-called empowerment workshops she'd taken up over the past month. It didn't take long to find a thread. One of her newer acquaintances, a woman named Ava, someone I barely knew, had posted photos from a private lounge the previous night. Lauren was visible in 2 frames, one, sitting at a small table near the bar. In the second, she was mid-conversation with a man. Tall, well-dressed, face partially turned, but the body language was unmistakable, close, familiar. The caption beneath the post made it worse. Late nights, good vibes, new friends. New friends. Not Megan. Not the old circle. By late morning, I knew I had to widen my approach. I contacted a friend, discreetly, someone who'd helped me with corporate investigations before. I asked for advice on phone cloning apps, and how to legally protect myself if this situation escalated into a contested divorce. His message was blunt: get ahead of it, quietly, document everything. And don't take the bait, she may be trying to provoke you. That last line stuck hard. Lauren texted mid-afternoon. Thinking of you. Hope you're okay. I'll call tonight if that's alright. It was almost artful, the false warmth, designed to keep me off balance, unsure. Keep the old emotional bond alive long enough to manage her timing. I replied simply, of course. Talk later. In the meantime, I took my first active external step. I called Megan. We hadn't spoken since this started. When she picked up, her voice was cautious. Megan, I said evenly. Lauren told me she was staying with you. I know that's not true. I'm not looking to make a scene. I just need to understand how deep this goes. There was a long pause. Then Megan sighed. Megan's voice was low, reluctant. She stayed here the first night, she admitted. After that, I don't know exactly. She's been staying somewhere else. I kept my tone controlled as I pressed. Somewhere else. With who? There was a pause, then Megan answered carefully. I don't know for sure. She met someone at her new yoga group. I think that's where she's been. Her voice dropped. I probably shouldn't be saying this. You're not the one betraying anyone, I said. But thank you for being honest. That evening, the final false normalcy moment landed. Lauren called, just after 8. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through the speaker, soft and deliberate. Hey, just wanted to hear your voice. I know this is hard. It's been a lot to think about. I hope you're doing okay. Miss you. I sat there after the message ended, watching the screen fade to black. Miss me? The audacity of it. After days of deception, after building this entire false narrative. But I didn't feel rage. Not anymore. Just a colder focus. I spent that night organizing the next phase, backed up all shared financial records, secured personal documents and valuables to a private location, contacted my legal friend again, this time to schedule a formal consult. Lauren wanted space. She would soon learn what true distance looked like. I would no longer be the one standing still. By day 4, I had shifted fully into strategic mode. The old emotional tug, hope, confusion, was gone. The mask Lauren wore for me had cracked. Now it was about clarity, preparation. I spent the morning expanding my information net. Quietly. First, I reviewed her news circles again. Lauren had joined that yoga studio 6 weeks ago, but it wasn't just a studio. It branded itself as an empowerment space, complete with social mixers, weekend retreats, curated private events. A place where connections were forged quickly and intensely. Scrolling through public event photos from the studio's page, I spotted him again. Same man from Ava's lounge post, this time clearer. His arm casually slung over the back of a booth, Lauren seated beside him, laughing. The caption: Community Night. Grateful for these connections. His name wasn't tagged. But he was part of this new circle. And from Lauren's body language, this wasn't casual. By noon, a bigger break came. Mark messaged again, this time less casual. Hey, not sure if I should say this, but heard Lauren's been staying with someone she met through that yoga place. Not Megan. Thought you should know. I called him immediately. Tell me everything, I said, tone flat. Mark hesitated, then sighed. Look, it's going around. She's been seen out with this guy, name's Ethan, I think. Works in finance. Going through his own mess right now, some kind of split. The name landed like a shot. Now it made sense. The urgency, the controlled image Lauren was building. She wasn't just drifting. She was aligning herself with someone else already mid-crisis, and that meant the stakes were higher than I'd assumed. I spent the afternoon verifying everything I could. I checked Ethan's profile, private, but mutual connections confirmed the link. Multiple tagged group photos from recent events had Lauren at his side. He wasn't just a fling. He was an anchor point for her escape plan. At 5, another layer peeled back, one that reframed the entire game. My legal friend called, voice low. Thought you'd want to know, hearing some chatter from a mutual contact. Word is, Lauren's been getting advice from a couple of people in that group about how to handle this cleanly. And fast. Fast how? Fast-track divorce. Narrative control. There's a strategy some of them use. Provoke the spouse into reacting badly. Document it. Frame it as the reason for leaving. I sat back in my chair, pulse steady. She's not coming back, I said. No, he confirmed. This was never about space. It was about pushing you out, on her timeline, her terms. That night, Lauren sent her next message. Hope you're doing okay. This has been hard for me too. Let's talk soon. It was almost laughable now, the performance layered over her private maneuvering. But the line that stuck wasn't the false affection. It was the strategy behind it. She wanted me reactive. Wanted me emotional, unbalanced. Something she could weaponize later. That would not happen. I spent that night finalizing my next steps. Secured backups of all digital communications. Notified my lawyer friend to initiate early protective filings. Began drafting my own version of separation terms. By now, one truth was clear. Lauren had staged this distance not as a path back, but as a bridge out. And in doing so, she had underestimated me. By day 6, Lauren's carefully constructed lesson was unraveling, faster than she realized. The cracks in her plan were widening. And now, I had leverage of my own. The morning started with another transactional message from her. Thinking of you today. This hasn't been easy for me either. Hope we can talk soon. I didn't reply. I'd already gathered enough to see her strategy clearly, and I wasn't going to provide her with any reactive material to use later. Instead, I prepared for the next phase, documenting everything. I started with the financial trail. Over the past 5 days, Lauren had racked up nearly $900 in charges tied to her new lifestyle. Lounges, salons, group events, boutique purchases. None of it matched the story she told about needing space to reflect. But the real turning point came mid-morning. My legal friend called again, his voice sharp the moment I answered. Got something you'll want to hear. I kept my tone steady. Go. He didn't hesitate. The guy Lauren's been seeing, Ethan, he's in the middle of a very messy split. There's legal exposure there. I narrowed my eyes, voice clipped. Meaning? Meaning, if Lauren pushes for a quick divorce using the "you neglected me, I found clarity" angle, and Ethan's situation gets dragged into the open, it complicates her narrative. Badly. I pressed further. How exposed is he? Enough that his own counsel would advise keeping his head down. He's not going to want Lauren pulling him into her personal mess right now. I leaned back in my chair, absorbing the shift. Lauren had built this play around the idea that I would react badly, giving her an easy exit path, a clean public image. But now, her new partner wasn't positioned to support that storyline. If anything, he was a liability to it. I spent the next few hours tightening my position. First, I froze joint access to key accounts, legally, through my attorney's guidance. No more free spending under shared assets. Second, I moved sensitive documents, financial records, business materials, to secure storage. Third, I began formal preparations for separation paperwork. I wasn't going to wait for Lauren to dictate terms. That afternoon, the unraveling accelerated. Jess messaged me, unexpectedly. Just so you know, some of Lauren's friends are distancing. Word's getting around that she's with someone who's still tied up legally. Not a great look. It was the first outward sign that her public, empowered space, narrative was slipping. And it told me something else. The more I stayed controlled, the more her own moves would backfire, without me having to lift a finger. Lauren texted again that evening. Can we talk tomorrow? I think we need to be honest with each other. The shift in tone was subtle, but clear. She was feeling pressure. Things weren't going as smoothly as she'd planned. But I wasn't going to talk. Not yet. Not until everything was positioned on my terms. By the end of day 6, one truth had crystallized fully in my mind. Lauren had never planned to come back. This wasn't space. It wasn't about reflection. It was about engineering my exit. Carefully staged distance, and an attempt to push me out on your terms. But now, her plan had fractured. Ethan wasn't a safe harbor. Her friends were growing wary. And I was moving faster than she realized. As I finalized my separation draft that night, I wrote a single line at the top of the file. I've learned my lesson. Now it's time for her to learn hers. The game had changed. And this time, I was setting the terms. Day 7 began with a kind of clarity I hadn't felt since this began. Lauren's plan had failed. She just didn't know it yet. She had staged distance to provoke me, miscalculated my response, and now stood on the edge of exposure. I was ready to move. First order of the day: finalize legal positioning. At 9 a.m., I met with my attorney in person. No emails, no traceable digital trail Lauren could intercept. We drafted separation papers that protected my key assets, froze joint liabilities, and preemptively filed notices to prevent unauthorized financial activity. I also secured legal protections on any further depletion of shared funds, citing clear transactional evidence of misuse. It wasn't about winning some moral high ground. It was about leverage. Second order: secure my position physically. By noon, I had moved critical documents, deeds, tax records, sensitive business materials, to an off-site vault. I also quietly packed a travel bag with important documents, secure backups, and essentials. Not because I intended to leave, but because if Lauren tried to shift tactics, accusation, false claims, I would be ready to be prepared to act quickly if things changed. At 2 p.m., with everything locked down, I sent the message. Short. Surgical. I've learned my lesson. Now it's your turn. Papers are coming. No heart. No warmth. Just a clean statement of intent. Her reply came within minutes. Wait, can we talk first? Please. This wasn't what I wanted. The mask was slipping. I didn't reply. Instead, I left the house, locked it, drove to my attorney's office. We filed the separation papers first. I wasn't going to be on the back foot when Lauren finally realized the ground had shifted. That evening, the confrontation came, not in some heated argument, but in a calm, deliberate meeting. Lauren showed up at the house unannounced around 7 p.m. I let her in, controlled, measured. She stood in the foyer, looking uncertain for the first time in days. I got your message, she began. Can we please talk? I feel like this is spiraling. I nodded toward the living room. Saturday. Let her speak first. She launched into a carefully crafted narrative, about being confused, needing time, never intending to hurt me. I listened. No interruptions, no visible reaction. When she finally paused, I spoke. You misled me about where you were and who you were with. You've been positioning for an exit, not a reconciliation. Her face paled. I know about Ethan, I continued. I know about the staged advice you've been getting. And I know you were hoping I'd react badly, to justify your side of this. Lauren's composure cracked visibly then, shoulders tightening, mouth opening without sound. This isn't about blame, I said flatly. It's about consequence. Papers have been filed. You'll receive them officially within the week. She tried once more. I didn't mean for it to go this way. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. That's not my concern anymore, I said. Calm. Final. When she left that evening, her steps were unsteady. The mask was gone. And for the first time since this began, I felt the tension release. Not victory, but control. The morning after our confrontation, Lauren's game began to unravel, publicly and fast. I knew because by noon, messages started coming in. Not from her, but from people around us. First came Mark. You were right to handle it clean. Word's getting around. Ethan's backing off. Doesn't want to get dragged in. That didn't surprise me. I'd known from the start that Ethan was Lauren's weak link, unstable footing for the kind of narrative she tried to build. With his own legal mess deepening, the last thing he wanted was to be part of hers. And without him propping up the story, her position collapsed further. By day 8, the ripple effects spread wider. Jess, who'd stayed cautiously neutral, messaged next. Just FYI, Lauren's been trying to spin it, but a lot of people have seen what's really going on. Her story isn't holding up. I didn't reply. No need. Every person who distanced themselves from Lauren now was another pillar gone from her original plan. Legally, things progressed exactly as intended. By day 10, the separation papers had been served officially. I had locked down accounts, secured asset positions, and preempted any attempt to paint me as an unstable or reactive party. Lauren's empowerment circle fragmenting. Megan stopped responding to her posts. Other mutual friends who'd once cheered her new chapter went conspicuously silent. Lauren had underestimated how fast the truth would leak, and how thin her public story really was once the details emerged. The emotional fallout was slower, harder. Even with the strategic win, there was no clean emotional victory. There were nights when the house felt cavernous, not from missing her, but from the echo of trust lost. I caught myself replaying old conversations, old dinners, the quiet comfort of a routine I believed was real. And beneath it all, a simple truth cut deeper than any legal document. She hadn't just betrayed the marriage. She'd staged the entire breakdown, turned it into a way to shift blame onto me, and nearly succeeded. I wasn't the same man she thought she could control. By day 14, I had restructured everything, legally, financially, personally, valuables secured, accounts stabilized, public stance calm, professional, measured. I moved through each day with purpose, not driven by revenge, but by the certainty that I would not be defined by this. The last message Lawrence sent, 2 weeks in, was one final reach. "I'm sorry for how I handled this. I didn't know how to be honest. I hope someday you'll understand." I read it once, then deleted it. No reply. There was nothing left to salvage. Thank you for watching. Bye.